Steve, welcome to New Zealand. Sort of homecoming, but I guess it's not home anymore.
Not quite, no.
Because you're now based in Kiev, so I should have said Zdravstvuyte when we started, or something like that.
Здравствуйте. Yeah.
First of all, let's start with what you're doing in Kiev.
Well, I have quite a few different hats I wear in Kiev. When I first went to Ukraine 6 years ago, we helped to establish a new evangelical seminary. So I teach systematic theology and church history there. But since then, I now teach at two other universities in Kiev. One, I teach English. That's my tent-making job because I'm a self-supported missionary. And the other, I was invited to come and teach at a place called the International Christian University, which is just a marketing and economics university established by missionaries. So I teach 4 papers there, 4 biblical papers.
If you'd said 20 years ago that there would be a Christian university in what was then the Soviet Union, no one would have believed you in a million years.
No, they wouldn't. And that's one of the issues that we have. Protestant Christians are still treated with a great deal of suspicion, and the local Orthodox Church are very anti-Protestant, and it's one of the main battles that we have there, actually.
That's sad, isn't it? That the pressure is now off the church in some ways, in that the state is now no longer targeting you, and yet the Orthodox Church is a bit iffy about you. Yeah, well,
there were always Baptists actually in Ukraine through the time of the Soviet Union, terribly persecuted people, and of course, at times the Orthodox Church worked with the state, so the Protestants were very much a very small minority, so they were persecuted very much. They couldn't go to schools. They were very uneducated, and so people have the understanding that all Protestants belong to a sect, that they want to steal your money, that if you join a Protestant church you're going to immediately go to hell. So this is one of the battles that we have to overcome.
Which I guess brings us round to the books that you brought out, because Just Christianity, which is the one that's aimed for adults, is actually what you use as part of your teaching materials.
Well, it's now a textbook, yeah. It was originally written for a man in Gore who was dying of cancer. It was written as a series of letters, and he had 9 months to live, and he gave his life to Christ 3 days before he died after reading it, which was wonderful. So now it's the Introduction to Bible course, and normally I have 120 new students a year. 50% would claim to be atheist. Maybe 4 or 5% would say that they were Orthodox Christian. One of the interesting things, Alan, is that young people of Ukraine do not trust the Orthodox Church. They see it as basically irrelevant, but there's a huge spiritual hunger there. So Just Christianity takes people on a journey through the Bible, and when they see the logic and the incredible story of salvation, they say, I want to know more.
Because that's what I was going to say, was that it actually follows very logically through. It's very hard to get to the end of the book and not come to the obvious conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't want to write a question and answer book, because people always have another question that you didn't answer. But I believe that God has shown, using Jewish history and an incredible story that cannot be contradicted, and the prophecies of Christ, the Passover, all of these things, Jewish culture, and it's a fantastic story. And
so the interesting thing is, actually, bearing in mind it's called Just Christianity, we actually don't get into the New Testament till actually, significant way through the book.
Yeah, but the story of Christ is on every page of the Old Testament. Yeah. Right from Genesis chapter 3, the first prophecy about Christ, and I've just finished writing an Old Testament paper for the university, 22 lectures, and all the way through the Old Testament, and seeing Christ in all of the stories of Ruth, and just fantastic.
And the other book is Just Because, which is the story of salvation for children.
For children. Yeah.
And this is taken, and every parent of a teenager will know what I mean when I say it's like the horrible history approach to Christianity. It actually, I wouldn't say its tongue is in its cheek, but it has a sense of humour. Yeah,
well, you obviously had a look at it. Actually, we just came over from Australia One of my niece's little boys was going through some huge problems at school, and he did not want to go to church. He wanted nothing to do with God. He got beaten up by some Christian boy. And he read Just Because. And it's, you know, as you notice, it's got small chapters, yes, just 20 minutes long with a little message. And his mother wrote to me and said, Ben wants to write to you because the book's changed his life around.
Wow. And
now he just loves God, and it's his favourite book. So it was incredibly encouraging for me to hear that from a little boy.
I mean, it is. I'd say I actually quite enjoyed reading it as a grown-up. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, it was written 20 years ago too, actually, for use in secular school, because I was teaching Bible in schools in Gore. So I started writing that just so that children could see where Abraham and Moses and all these people fitted in, and how Christ. So the book has that extra flavour where Satan's looking around for this kid that's going to crush his head, and so it's got that exciting, looking forward to the coming of Christ. Yeah. And
talking of changing lives around, yours took a fairly 90-degree turn at one point, because you were brought up in a Baptist family.
Yeah, one of 8 children. My father was converted late in life, had a lot of problems with alcohol, but God did a miracle change in his life, but travelled all around New Zealand. But my father was brought up strict Presbyterian and had a very narrow view of Calvinist theology when he was a very young Christian, and I, as a boy of 13 or 14, I just totally rebelled against that, and I got involved in rock music. Then I got involved in Satanism in a big way, and then Transcendental Meditation. I became one of the leaders in this country in the Transcendental Meditation movement many years ago. And then on the 19th of July 1982, I met Christ. I had an incredible born-again experience, and I just fell in love, and I've been falling in love even more ever since. Wow. So, you know, I hated Christianity, I hated Christ for many years, and couldn't believe the mercy of God to call someone like that. And so every day for me is just a joy to be able to serve Him and to love Him more. Yeah.
And now you're taking other people on that same journey.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing to do. It's an incredible, enjoyable thing to do.
Yeah, well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. God bless.